Good morning. How are you
Good
today, Mr.
morning.
Sean?
I'm amazing. And you know when that countdown at the beginning was playing, I was like, I wonder if this feeling of excitement is like what the crew of Artemis 2 felt as the launch countdown was happening, about ready to be like shot up into the
Yeah.
stratosphere.
Very, very, very comparable.
Yeah, that's what I thought, right?
You are the legend, the myth. So it is that important. Okay, you're going to start seeing Sean and I showing up together here every Mondays. We're taking you through all of this. Sean and I were chatting last week even, and I showed him the whole entire program that we've been working on and that we're automating and putting together. And he's like, oh my God, Kim, this is crazy. This is crazy. So I'm excited. 52 weeks of stuff we get to talk about.
You know what? We could talk for probably about like 152 weeks, but we're going to cut it down to 52.
Just because we're being nice. We're being
That's
nice.
right.
Yep. Okay, your story is your strategy. So if you've been following me for a while, I talk a lot about the most important thing to have first is structure. And then your structure feeds your strategy. And then strategy, you apply your tactics. And the reason why this is so important, and having Sean here today, even in helping explaining and chiming in on this, Sean, how many times has a client come to you for marketing, for media, for automation, and they have no idea who they are? How often does that happen?
Sadly, I have to say probably almost all the time.
Yeah.
Very rarely. It's almost like finding a unicorn when somebody comes knowing exactly who they are.
It's a difficult question to ask, right? And it's nothing. It's so funny. We can't do it on our own. We need someone to take us through that experience because we've got all these roadblocks of, you know, feeling like you've got too much of an ego, or it feels funny talking about yourself because we've been taught not to talk about ourselves or just consider ourselves, and we think it's selfish. And then we also haven't had someone just hold the mirror up to say, this is who you are. This is what you are saying. Is that in a line of what you want to do? If not, how do we change it and make it better, right?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of stuff that we talk about, the find the I and find the calm. So our first two lives, we talked about, talking about your I, who you are, right? So the greatest, calmest place of the storm is within the I and who you are, and you can make decisions strategically. The calm is that behavioral evolution that we talked about before. So everybody goes through an evolution in business just like you do as a human being. So in your first couple of years, you're all creative and you're all imaginative, and no one can tell you what is right or wrong to do, right? You're just going to say, hold my beer, I'm going to do it, right? And then the next couple of years, you find a study group. Is it a BNI? Is it a regulatory group? But some type of group where you actually have alignment of opinions. So you're in there getting some structure. After you go through that, you now go into lead into your mastery. So you've created some things you screwed up. You've got those 1,000 mistakes we talk about that equal success.
Hmm.
You start to align to get some ideas. You leave that room with your ideal, and then you start to lead in your wisdom. And then at the end, we start going to the mastery. So this is a long entire project. And this is why we have 52 weeks that we go through that are a repeatable process that we go back to time and time again. So looking at this, we think about all that part of the how. So the great book, The Who Not How, I think we forget about the what
Hmm.
first, right? So that book is built for people who are in a certain stage in their business life. It's for the people that are in that stage of leading and in going into their mastery. So we need to talk about that beginning part of letting everybody know that there's a foundation there. So understanding that we have three models that show up in advice-based business, right? So you see this, Sean, right? It's probably the normal marketing or automation that people have. It's kind of a attractional model, right?
Hmm.
So it's traditional marketing. And many stand from here. They talk to a mass audience. They throw it out there. There's a call to action. So hoping someone will bite and book time with me. There's no existing relationship. And this one's not demonstrating any of your expertise or table stakes. It's just so generalized, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of that happens, doesn't it?
Hmm.
And when you see that happen, the success rates, I think clients get very frustrated. I'm doing all this work. We're spending all this money. We're doing all these things. Why am I not seeing the return on my investment? So how would you answer that?
I think a lot of it comes down to the reason they're not seeing is because everybody's doing the exact same thing, and they're just adding to noise that's out there, and they're not cutting through. And as somebody who's receiving that, they become almost numb or blind to it. So while as a client or a person that's promoting themselves that way, they feel this expanding or exhaustion of energy, putting all this effort into the same thing, but getting nothing back. Right. So, and when you see people start to shift to the focus that we do and that you teach to them, it's like this breath of fresh air, because they start to see engagement, they start to see people actually leaning in and wanting more, and it really stands out as something different. So that's why they're doing the same thing, expecting a different result, right? The definition of insanity.
Yeah, yeah, definitely is.
Mhm.
And, we've said this many times of who's your audience of one, right? And if you're not talking to your audience of one,
Mhm.
you are talking to the audience of none.
That's right.
Right. So you blend into this world of sameness that's happening out there. And the one client that you and I are working on together, and it's almost a little challenging, right? So they're using a lead generation company, and he's kind of got his backup, the guy that's writing the scripts for that, saying, well, it needs to sound like this, it needs to sound like this. Okay, maybe, but we have to take into consideration of when we're doing lead generation, when you are upping the conversion rates, when it does happen, and it's in your own voice and it's in your own context,
Mhm.
and you don't stumble over the words, right? It just becomes natural.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
unbeatable,
absolutely.
right?
And there's so much out there where people are talking to, like you said, talking to the masses. And I've done a lot of coaching for people that to be on camera, and the idea is like they're trying to talk as if they're speaking to like from a stage,
Yeah.
versus sitting at a table one-to-one with somebody or in a coffee shop. So the idea of what advice would you give that person, because the people that are standing around leaning in listening to that advice will get the benefit of it.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally
Mhm.
agree. So yeah, traction model, and about 35% of advice-based businesses live in here, and they don't ever move past it, right? Then
Mhm.
we start looking at the relationship models. So the big beat. So I think it's 30 and 65. So 65% live in here because we think we need to live in here. Right. So this model takes so much nurturing. It really does. And we naturally gravitate towards it because it feels nice. It feels comfortable. We want to be a nice person and we want to help people. Right. So it's all about referrals. It's about being involved in community. It's advisory boards, and it's nurturing attraction with word of mouth. That's really what they hope and they set it up for. So all of the funnels, the formats, the filters, whatever word you want to give it, is all just about someone becoming a raving fan and you hoping they will say your name in the room. Not very often have you been in a room when you're saying, yeah, my mortgage is this and that and that. Not very often people will say that out loud and come and say something. We talk about that referral message happening a lot, but that's theory, that's not lived life, right? It truly is that way. The way we are looking to within the AI world and what's happening, people and coaches and individuals that are influencers are saying, dive deeper into the relationships, be really, really deep into the relationships. And I 100% disagree with that. 100% disagree with that. Because you need to lead your business from a place of profit, then purpose and passion. And I'll get into that more later. But what the individuals are looking for, and I think you've seen it too, is in this world of, oh, I'm gonna say a Trump word, my gosh, but anyways, fake news, right? You don't know what's fake or not anymore. And there's so many things that are unrealistic, and there's so many pieces out there, and people have been burnt so much about someone has said something really powerful that made me want to trust them. But I find out when it actually go and hit the road and go work with them, that's not who they are. That's not what they have the expertise for. They're just parroting something. So people are gun shy on entering with a relationship based. They want to enter in with an expertise based, someone who is showing up with bias and confidence. I said a lot. What do you think, me saying that?
I think a lot of people listening to this, probably this is like a shock moment where they're like, they may be still on that fence about that relationship side of things, where the next part about everything being very soft and fluffy. And you got to the point of everybody saying, you got to get into that referrals and networking and all that kind of stuff. And while you go into it expecting these great returns, it always disappoints that way. But the idea of when you see somebody, you think about anybody that you follow online, and you follow them for quite some time, any of these experts that are there that have proven the test of time, they have viewpoints and opinions. They don't normally sit in the middle and look at both sides that way,
Yeah.
right? So that's what you want, especially in the finance world. You want somebody that's really going to give you like the pure guidance that you're going to go the right way that's there, and not be like throw it back to you where you have to decide left or right, that way. So
Yeah.
that's key. And I mean, you've seen it in even the content that you're putting out. There are times where you're like, some of this will feel uncomfortable initially. You're like, do I really want to say this? I believe it. I feel it to my heart of hearts and to my core, but do I want to put it out? And when you put it out, and then there's like people like, yeah, like they lean in, you're like, okay, right, there's something here.
Yeah, yeah. Especially when your DMs light up, right? Because
Yeah.
you've touched something that has an element of shame or guilt, or I didn't think anybody else felt this way. It's really powerful. And when we're in an advice-based industry, so if you're a coach, what we do, if you're a financial advisor, giving advice for a living is the most difficult living to have. But it's the most rewarding when you figure it out.
Mhm.
So people come to you not for your unbiased advice. They want your honest to goodness truth opinion on something, and then arm them with the ability to make the choice or not, or have further conversations. So this relationship business and that everyone's coming through with is and saying, be more relationships, take time, nurture, show up as a professional naturally. Because what starts to happen too is if you confidently know who you are and you're living in this expertise model, and going into the segue, right?
Mhm.
You're all in. You know a lot about a specific topic. You don't find yourself chiming in about everything, that you are the knower of all and doer of nothing. You're not that guy or that gal at the networking event that always has an answer for something, right? You don't like them. Those are Tommy Two Guns, right? Right. And when the synergies start to go inward and you start to understand this, that your ideal client target market that you can best help and serve is you. It's you 5 to 10 years back, and it's you 5 years forward. And everything else is that stability, that structure that you build on top, which is so cool. So this is the easiest way to market. It is so simple to market because you are standing for a cause and you can navigate through it. And these are the people that have spent all these years navigating through this invisible work. So I just posted a reel on the weekend just saying, you guys, my success didn't happen overnight. Here is, years of beta testing, and here is all the spreadsheets that feed into another piece, right? Expertise doesn't happen overnight. So saying that you got a client, well, let's be truth. When you've worked with me, with clients, and I give you the whole entire sheet of who they are, who they talk to, their language, their voice, their cadence, what kind of media makes sense, all that. How does that make you feel?
Well, I've had the privilege to sit in on those calls where you're revealing that document of all that work that's there, and just seeing the reaction on the client's face where they're like, wow, like, so, like, how did you pull that out of me? Like, that is exactly who I am, what I feel, everything is there. And for some of them, it's like they've been trying for so many years to do this on their own, and they just can't get there. And you'd mentioned about this, this overnight success. It's I've heard this phrase where it's like, it took me 30 years to be an overnight success, right?
Right.
Like that type of thing. Like the idea is somebody flips that switch and they get that connection right. The people that notice it think that it happened that quick, but it's been years in the making, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting to watch. And I love that you chimed in on their face and the aha moments, because it really is the deep dive in the process I do. It's very uncomfortable because I start right away with what we're about to start of who do you want to be? And everyone kind of looks at us saying, Kim, I'm a male. I'm a financial advisor. I talk about money, returns. Doesn't
Doing
matter who
everyone
I
else,
am.
right?
Yeah, right. Like it doesn't matter who I am or what I want, right? I just need to say things, and I need to teach people that tax is bad, government bad, buy insurance, that's what I'm here for.
Mhm.
And the client doesn't give a flying 2 cents about those things. They honestly don't care whatsoever. And all of our success that has happened is this. So even the gentleman that we're working on together, and after we went through that document, and it's so much fun because we went through the document, pulled it all out. He's sitting there going, my gosh, that is me. That's me. I've been trying so hard. And then it's so funny when I partner with people like you, right? And you and I
Mhm.
partner a lot. You're sitting there going, and we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this, and how about that? And it's this incredible thing to be part of. And you can't market this, right? You have to live it. When you're sitting in a room with experts that are playing their position and helping you show up as your best you, I love it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's cool. So when you were going through this, we have our whole program. I think we're going to start in May or June. I can't remember which one we decided on, but end of May, beginning of June, probably after a long weekend. But it is this program that is an annual deep dive. There are a couple of distribution partners that are coming and looking on to putting this directly through them with a foundational group, which is amazing to hear about. But anyways, keep your eyes peeled on my social. But this first question that we always ask, and why this is so important, of who am I aspiring to be? So when I first, like if I asked you that question, Sean, right in the beginning, who are you aspiring to be? What happens to you?
A state of panic comes over, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you start to make things up. So you're putting things out there, and then when you hear it, you're like, is that really what it is? And that type of
Am I
stuff,
right?
right? And it's almost like, well, what should I be aspiring to be, right? And
Yeah.
that's where a lot of people, especially in an industry like what does that industry want me to be,
Yeah.
not who am I actually aspiring to be.
Yes. Right. It is such an interesting part of. I even posted this morning about enough, right? And enough isn't a number. Enough's a feeling. It's emotion. It's a decision, right? And so when I ask this question of who are you aspiring to be, a lot of people will say something. I'm like, I want to be this, and their tonality goes up because they're asking me the question, and I'm supposed to guide them of who they're supposed to be and tell them, because we're so used to being taught something, and that's how we show up. So I think about our early education days, right? We're taught how to write, we're taught how to express, and there's a certain individual that is judging all of our stuff we're doing, right? So we're
Mhm.
appeasing that one individual. So as we go into our adult life and in our business life, there's this weird psychological thing that is stuck with us because we are appeasing parents, we're appeasing family members, we're trying to find a spouse and a partner, and we think we need to appease and show up in a certain way. And we have a hard time becoming selfish, saying, well, this is who I want to be. This is
Mhm.
me. And when we start going into this, we ask that second question of, okay, what are your pains, problems, needs, or inner gaps? And that was a Freudian slip once, but what are your pains, problem, needs, or inner gaps in the way of becoming this individual? And this takes a lot of time and thinking, because and I know we know where we need to go. And we know that there are things in the way, and it's really hard to face. So when I ask that two of you of what's in the way of you becoming this individual, what's the first thing that comes to your mind with your business?
I mean, a lot of it's fear,
Hmm.
right? That's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like, will this shift have a detrimental impact on the success, growth, or enjoyment of the business, right?
Right.
For me,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah. Fear is huge. Everyone thinks, you've been in business. Are you 16 years now or 17? 16.
I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years.
Well, all your life.
Yeah. So first business when I was 17, and I'm now 45. So
Yeah.
whatever the
Yeah.
math works out to that.
Yeah. 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 It's fear's always there. So people think, and it was funny, I got a note too of, Kim, you're so successful, you have it all together. I can't tell you how many times I've been sucking my thumb in the fetal position in the corner going, okay, I'm about to do another big move. Who am I going to piss off? Or who's going to forget about me? Or who's not going to understand me? Or, what is that next opinion I'm going to get? And it's really interesting of, this is where environment's so important, about curating your environment and people
Mhm.
understanding, right, who you are. So when I look at what are my pains, problems, or inner gaps in the way of becoming this individual, I want to look at my environment. Do I have the right team around me? Right? Because you are the reflection of the five people that's closest to you, all that stuff. They're all true. This is when all the cliches come so true, right? And then is that part of, okay, do I have a foundation? Because we will take risks if we know that we can land. So the
Hmm.
greatest example I ever have is if you go to go skydiving. Before you go skydiving, they make you jump off a ladder 3 or 4 times to make sure you can land first. So if you can land, then you go up and you can take the risk and you can jump out of the plane. That's that same thing that we're missing too, right? You want to know that you have a foundation there because humans are based on structure. That's one of our greatest needs that
Hmm.
happens. And it's that part of no one's self made. I think that's a bigger part too. We try to do this alone all the time, and you can't. You
Hmm.
can't, right? Even you've graciously done the Simon Sinek. Okay, I've got 8 minutes for you, right? Because there's times when I've been doubting myself, or am I taking the right turn, or things like that. And you're on what I call and what we coach later on my Spark team. Like you help me spark ideas. You help me figure out who I am and get rid of the noise. Right?
Hmm.
Those are so important. They're so important, right?
And you'd mentioned something a moment ago about that, hinging on that fear of, oh, I'm making this big move. Who am I going to piss off now? But what I think we need to look at is, will this move unlock something for people that are out there waiting for someone like you that just isn't out there yet or hasn't gotten the courage to unlock that, right? So, the people that you're going to piss off and aren't going to be happy with you, you're not really going to want, they're not your ideal client anyway, because you're not authentically you at that point,
Yeah.
right? It's when you unlock that true self that those people are out there, that they're like, oh, finally, like somebody that's actually speaking the truth. And like,
Right.
where were you all my life? Like those
Yeah.
people will come out.
Yeah, yeah. There's I was keynote speaking a couple months ago and I got the feedback forms and a lot of it said raw and real. Kim's one of the best speakers I've ever heard. She's raw and real was everywhere. And so one of the organizers said, got to be a little bit careful, going that. And I said, well, why do you think that's not a compliment? And he said, well, HR and that whole cancel world culture and all that kind of stuff. And I said, no, people are craving this more and more than ever. They truly are. So do I use 50-cent words all the time? No, I don't. We forget that even right from our communication when we're speaking, when we're on stage, grade 4 level or grade 8 level, just making sure that we are connecting in that right way because we just need to have it. We absolutely need to have it. So what people are looking for and who you're screaming to be, just let it out. Your story really is your number one strategy. And if you've worked with me for over a year, you get that aha moments and you're like, wow, this is what structure looks like. And it's all based on you. And I think
Mhm.
that's that next part of, why do you find this becoming this individual unique and compelling? We do a lot of things, even when you look at social media and all the stupid things that are happening there. I think people are craving attention more than ever to be seen, like to be absolutely seen. And I find a lot of the responses with the people that I coach without breaking any privacy, it's that part of they can finally see me. And then we go deeper and I'm like, I can finally see myself,
Mhm.
right? There's this world of performance. So when I say that to you too, have you had experiences with people with that of, all of a sudden they have that aha moment and the light bulb goes on and they see themselves?
Yeah, I think it's usually when, things like what you said, they get to go somewhere and be themselves,
Yeah.
and people come up to them and validate that that's authentic,
Yeah.
that's there. And so they see that, and to that point of people wanting to manufacture that attention online, where they're like, I need to. And I've had this before. People have come to me like, I need you to create me a viral video. Okay, well, you can't create that.
Yeah.
It just has to naturally happen. That's the purpose of it. But the idea of, they look at what others are doing and they try to replicate it to the T.
Mm-hmm.
I have a client who is, he's like, go analyze these top 20 YouTubers that are in my space and give me the exact formula that they're using because that's what I want to be. But then make a clone of me so I don't actually have to be there. Okay, so we're missing the point.
Yep. Yeah, completely. Right?
Yeah, so what,
It-
yeah, the bottom thing is like, what do you want there? It's just, you just want the money, right? You want the
yeah.
finance, right? And
Yeah.
they're not in the financial space, they're in a different
Yeah.
industry. But it's just interesting that we get attracted by this shiny success that is the only thing we see in our feeds because that's what the algorithm is giving us.
Yeah.
Um, right? It's the same thing in the music industry. Like those people that are truly like the music gurus and love it, they find the musicians that are real and raw that you never heard of, and the music is phenomenal. Right? It's the same type of thing.
My handle on my games, my gaming handle is Be the B side. So on old tapes, the B
Yeah.
side was all the hidden music,
Mhm.
right? The uniquely hidden music that not very many people would find. So here's a little personal thing on me. My handle on gaming when I game is Be the B side. Because I think that is people are looking for the unique and the creative and where you can just there's a relaxation that happens, right? So why it's so compelling is you can see when you're trying to perform and be someone else. That's why everyone memorizes scripts and they memorize content and I've got to say this, or they're not listening anymore because they're waiting for that point of they can just say one thing and I've got to get this script off. It,
Mhm.
it doesn't work. It honestly doesn't work. So we just finished putting together an introduction to life insurance PowerPoint presentation for a couple of clients, and this is a thing we do. And there's a regular format, but we change the language and the words, right? So this one individual, like she's booked up for the whole entire month now because I gave her format that is in her words and she can explain it, right?
Mhm.
It's such a unique thing to see, and we have all these things or measurements that we measure in any industry at all, and sometimes as a quantified qualified, like how do we put this all together? And it's that combination of logic and emotion. That's how it
Mhm.
all works, right? So this evolution of yourself becomes better, and this is where I watch anxiety lessen. We have a very, very over anxious world. A lot of people have anxiety, and the reason why people have anxiety is because it is the lack of taking action on something, right? So your brain's swirling and swirling. So it's really interesting on that part of you feel better because you're taking action on something. That seems to be that response that we go back to all the time. And does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, it's the same thing with it's that lady that has the book. She has a 5-second rule, countdown, five,
Oh,
four,
Mel
rule.
Robbins.
Yes, and I don't know what you think about that, but the idea is just verbally saying that kind of gets you over that hump that's in there, and just verbal. It's like when you have that anxiety on something, just saying what you're going to do helps you. And I did an exercise with a BNI group that I'm in. And what we did is we tied a washer to a string, and we held it above our head in front of they held it in front of their face. And I told them, your sole purpose right now is to think of this and not make that move. Hold it as still as you can. And then start to say left, right, left, right, left, right. And what happens in the room is even though their brain, they're told that you have to keep still, that washer starts to go left, right, because verbalizing things has these little micro movements in your muscles that cause things to move. So that same type of thing happens when you have anxiety on something. Is just say what you want, right? You got to get over that hump that's in there, and it's like the science and the neuroscience behind everything is just so fascinating when you learn these little things and steps that you need to take and stuff.
Right. It's little pieces, and it's so funny. And again, you've seen our whole entire program because you're helping automating and building out that whole entire system there that we've tested one on one, right? And we're bringing
Mhm.
this out to scale for greater group of people that we can help. And when I even look at it, every time I go through one of the documents that we have, or I go film another piece or whatever, it is amazing to me how it just compounds on each other in that reminder and that reminder. And a lot of it is the psychological and the verbal cues that are important to look at. Again, who do I want to be? Who am I aspiring to be? Right?
Mhm.
Little language nuances of what is possible by using the word aspiring, right?
Mhm.
There's so many pieces that we just don't talk about, and it's about time. And I'm very grateful that I've had the ability the last 6 years to have and take the time to put this together and say, hey, I've been listening. This is what you're looking for. Because there's this word authenticity that we use all the time. And I think we not understanding that authenticity, it really is alignment between, the consistency of how you think, feel, and act.
Mhm.
So if it's think, feel, and act, if those are all aligned, you're being authentic. And I think that's a really cool checkpoint to have.
Mhm. But
So,
I
oops.
just want to add in
Yeah.
here, like you said, you 6 years to build this, and this is
Mhm.
like over my 20 some years, I've worked with a lot of different individuals in the coaching space who have built programs, and they tend to do it from the top down, where they're like, "Here's the idea." They go to market, and then they build it as they go.
Yeah.
When you showed me what you've put together, like I was knocked off the chair, because I'm like, there's so much depth and thought, and everything plays into the next thing so perfectly. And that's not me here trying to sell this. It's authentically well thought out, that now you've got that core, now you're going to market with it. And
Yeah.
it's you don't always see it that way, right? It's
Yeah.
that whole, like, a lot of people are like, we'll catch them with a flash, right? And then we'll
Mm.
kind of hope we build it as we go, and it just becomes weak tea,
Yeah.
right?
That's the part where, and again, I'm a I'm a unique little unicorn. I know I am, and I know I think very differently. And that's always been a challenge for myself, especially in the corporate world, right? When you are trying to bring forward a voice of many, but you're sitting there saying, but this is the problem, right? And you have to convince that whole entire room. And it's why I left corporate. But it's that other part too of I'm trying to find the words and get enough words. And this is why we're showing up every Monday too with this live is there's so many times and the influencers and the cultures and the celebrities are saying, you've got a concept and an idea, just fill the room, just sell the wait list. You can build it later on and away you go.
Mhm.
And that's what has really, really compounded the lack of trust in people. So people go to market with an idea without it being tested to come and result as the ideal, right?
Mhm.
And so through the 6 years of me testing this and putting this together, I'm not telling you it's all been success. I've gotten to some fights. I've gotten to, some returning some money for some people where we weren't aligned, helping them understand where it goes through. Like this is something incredibly different and important, and I'm proud of it. And I'm glad I have someone like you alongside. So thank you. It's a big one.
You know?
It's so big it's hard to get everyone to understand what it is. And
Mhm.
this is that time and point where you just need patience. Everyone needs patience and shut the noise off and really, really invest in yourself, because that next question of how do I see myself resulting in a more positive outcome overall by growing into this individual. So when you're going through this whole thing of who am I aspiring to be, quiet, attentive, learning, listening, valued, that comes by listening and investing into yourself. What's getting in the way? Well, I'm going from piece to piece, mark to mark. I'm not putting structure in place. My habits, my behaviors, my anxiety, we really need to look at it. Being so involved in this world that is so incredibly noisy, we're not meant to be in it. We're not meant to survive this way. How do I find this unique and compelling? You just know who you are. You walk down the street, you know who you are. There was a time I had to have a fancy house, a fancy car, all this kind of stuff because I thought that was my identity. And it's not. Now I show up a lot of times with no makeup on and my favorite Pride shirt ever is my hoodie. I love it. Like I absolutely love it. Can't wear it much longer. And then that whole part, so how do I see myself resulting in a more positive outcome overall when all these pieces start falling into place? Because we are nothing but patterns and structure. That's what we are as humans. It all starts clicking and you start seeing it. And that's where that moment of, oh my goodness. So when people say 28 days to habits or whatever it may be, focus, changing habits, whatever you want to say, is not duration, it's frequency. So it's not I'm doing it for 28 days. It's that whole how frequently do I start embedding this in my life and in my practice? Right? So when we
Mhm.
look at our whole entire program, right, there's so many repetitive things in there, but that's what we have to do. It's frequency. Right. So it's always so interesting. I love geeking out. Thank you for letting me geek out. 5 whys. Here's a little bit of fun stuff. So a lot of coaches utilize the 5 whys. And the greatest or the kind of the idea behind it is you getting to the root of something, right? So this actually came from a problem solving tactic at Toyota. It was an engineer at Toyota who started this. So they had a problem and he said, well, let's ask 5 why times. And let's ask why 5 times. And he did it. And that's how they got to the root of the problem. So this is a great exercise that I want to leave everyone with as we are starting to wrap up this live. And I want you to act like a whole entire 6-year-old. Just blurt it out. I don't want it to think about it at all, right? So it's just why? Okay. So take a moment and continually ask why, starting with the question, why do you do what you do for a living? So once you answer that first question of why do you do what you do for a living, and we usually say something that is attached to the Simon Sinek why of I want to help people. Why? Because why? So once you do that 5 times, you are going to get to the I. You are going to get to a very truthful, honest statement that is selfish, and I will celebrate the living daylights out for you. Because that's that really important part. So it's starting with the why, kind of, but the why was meant for an overall collection of ideas and bringing it together in commonality across an organization, across many voices. We can't apply that methodology to a solo entrepreneur. It doesn't work, right? So we need to talk about us. So why do you do what you do for a living? And then answer it, ask why, answer it, ask why. And next little extra bonus piece is if you take that whole sentence and you reverse engineer it, it becomes or can become a really good baseline for your elevator pitch, for your descriptive statement, for all those things. Because it's I help who want to, so that, because. And when you look at that, you're going to get that same idea. So it's even a different way of getting to your unique value proposition statement that you use, right? Which is I help person so that they can right,
Yep.
and want to another, and then because another statement, you'll get the same thing out of it. It's an easy part. I love this one. Have you ever done the 5 whys?
Yes. Yeah. And usually that's in like counseling too. Like I've seen that used in personal stuff. Like, why did you do that? Like, obviously parenting is a great use for that.
And help me understand.
That's right.
Help me understand why you did that. Whenever I say help me understand in my family, everyone's like, okay, Kim's pissed off. What's going on? Okay, so that's a wrap up for us today. Sean, I loved having you here. Thank you. You're gone on holidays for a couple of weeks, so you won't be here the next 2 sessions, but we're going to continue on. So watch the socials. We show up live on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, and watch the replays and chime in. And please send myself or Sean any questions that you might have or topics you want covered. We've been doing this for a long time, and it's not too difficult for us to switch it up. So thank you.
It's been great.
Thanks. Okay, bye.
Bye.